Rain pounded against the glass like war drums. Lena Carter stood outside the gleaming skyscraper of Vostek, soaked to the bone, clutching the trembling hand of her 5-year-old daughter Emma. Her other arm held her son Noah close, his tiny backpack heavy on her shoulder. The security guard eyed her with thinly veiled disdain. "No children allowed past the lobby," he said flatly. "I don't have a choice," Lena replied, voice tight. "My sitter canceled last minute, and this interview, it's my only shot." She didn't beg, she never did. But her desperation cracked through the calm. The man sighed and motioned toward a bench. "You can wait here. I'll see what HR says." As he disappeared into the elevator, Lena sank into the bench, wiping water from Noah's cheek with the hem of her already soaked coat. She had $20 to her name, 2 growing kids, and a resume full of temp jobs and invisible labor. And yet, somehow, she was about to interview for a junior assistant position at the most powerful tech firm in the city. Vostek wasn't just a company. It was a kingdom.
And its CEO?
Damien Voss. He was the kind of man whispered about in hallways and tabloid headlines.
Cold. Brilliant. Terrifying.
Women threw themselves at him. Models, heiresses, even celebrities, and yet not a single one had ever lasted a night by his side. Rumors said he was allergic. Physically allergic to human touch, especially women's. A mystery the media never solved. Lena never believed it. Until today. Because what she didn't know was he was watching her. 42 floors above, Damien Voss stood behind tinted glass, watching the woman on the security monitor. Her eyes were fierce, protective. Her movements precise, even in panic. She cradled her children with a tenderness that sliced through him like a blade. And that strange tug in his chest.
The ache.
The craving. It returned. He lifted a trembling hand to his throat, heart racing. Every time a woman entered his proximity, his body retaliated. It was biological, clinical, brutal. But this woman? His skin hadn't flared. No hives. No burning. Just stillness.
No.
Not stillness.
Peace.
He pressed the intercom. "Send her up.
Now."
Lena's heart dropped when the guard returned. "You've been requested directly. By Mr. Voss himself." She blinked. "What?" "Don't ask questions. Just follow me." In the elevator, Noah clutched her hand while Emma stared at the lit-up numbers, wide-eyed. Lena tried to calm her breathing. She hadn't even changed her wet clothes. What would a man like Damien Voss think of her now? When the elevator doors opened, silence met her like a wall. The reception area was sleek marble, all glass and steel, humming with tension. A woman in a crisp black suit ushered her forward. "Mr. Voss will see you. But the children, they stay with me," Lena said firmly, her voice more steel than fear now. There was a pause. Then, "Very well." Damien's office was a cathedral of shadows and power. Floor-to-ceiling windows revealed the entire city skyline. He sat behind a dark oak desk, not even looking up at first. Lena stepped inside, her shoes squelching slightly from the rain. Embarrassment burned her cheeks. But when Damien looked up, everything shifted. He rose slowly, eyes locking on hers. The world stilled.
She felt it.
That strange weight in the air, as if time paused to take a breath. Damien's voice was low, smooth, but there was a tremble beneath it. "You're late." Lena straightened. "I came as fast as I could." His gaze drifted to Emma and Noah. "They're yours?" She nodded. "They go where I go." His lips curved slightly, not a smile, but something near it. "I see." Then, to her shock, he came around the desk. Stood just inches away. Lena braced herself, expecting him to flinch, to back away, to sneeze or react like the gossip pages said he would. But nothing happened. In fact, he leaned closer and touched her wrist. Touched her. Damien's breath hitched. Not in pain. Not in recoil.
In awe.
She didn't move.
Didn't speak.
Neither did he. Because something unspoken passed between them in that moment. Something far older than words. A hum in the blood. A question neither could name, but both already felt. Why only her? Finally, he pulled away, eyes burning. You're hired. Lena blinked. You haven't even. I said you're hired. He turned, as if to end the conversation, but stopped. One more thing, he said, voice quieter. No one touches me.
Ever.
But if I ask for your help, you'll give it. She stared, confused. Of course. He nodded. Then be here at 8 a.m. sharp. With or without the rain. And just like that, it was done. Lena left the office with shaking hands, holding her children tighter than ever. She didn't know what just happened. But neither did Damien. Because for the first time in 10 years, his skin still burned, but it was no longer a punishment. The boardroom fell into stunned silence. The glass walls shimmered in the golden afternoon light, but all warmth had vanished from the room. Lena stood at the far end, breath heaving, hand still trembling from the slap she'd just delivered, not to just anyone, but to Ethan Voss, the CEO's smug nephew and head of PR. You crossed the line, she said, voice low but fierce. Ethan was clutching his reddened cheek, stunned. You hit me? You think you can just slap a Voss and walk away? Gasps rippled across the room. Assistants froze. Junior execs exchanged glances. But Lena's eyes were locked, not on Ethan, but on the man standing near the conference table in a tailored black suit, Damien Voss. The infamous, untouchable CEO. The man she hadn't expected to see again after the disaster at last night's gala. But he was here. And he hadn't taken his eyes off her since she'd walked in. Lena's jaw clenched. She had been called here under the pretense of a follow-up interview. Instead, Ethan had cornered her the moment she arrived, spitting insults, calling her a gold digger, suggesting she found her way in through someone's bed. She'd tried to walk away.
He'd grabbed her wrist.
That's when she slapped him. And now, the world had stopped turning. You're fired, Ethan shouted, voice cracking. You don't have that authority, came a cool, deep voice from across the room. All heads turned to Damien. His expression was unreadable, chiseled jaw tight, storm in his eyes, but his voice was calm. Lethal. Leave the room, Ethan. But I said leave. Ethan hesitated, then stormed out, slamming the glass door behind him. The room still felt heavy with the tension he left behind. Lena's heart pounded in her ears. Her eyes met Damien's again. There it was, that look. Not cold. Not angry. Something else.
Curiosity.
Intrigue. And maybe something darker, something she didn't understand. I didn't know you'd be here, she said finally, her voice softening. Damien walked slowly toward her, hands behind his back. Neither did I. This meeting was meant for Ethan to recommend candidates. Clearly, I arrived just in time. He stopped a few feet from her. She saw it in his eyes. He was scanning her again, as if trying to solve a puzzle. I remember you, he said. Lena raised an eyebrow. From the gala? No, he replied, his voice quieter now. From before. Her breath caught. She didn't answer. Couldn't. He didn't press. Just glanced down at her hand, the same one she'd used to slap his nephew. You're not afraid of consequences, he said. I don't have the luxury to be. His gaze darkened at that. You have children? Lena's eyes narrowed. Why does that matter? Because I want to offer you a job. A better one. She blinked. You want to hire me? After that. Damien's lips twitched, the ghost of something that almost resembled a smile. You protected your dignity. You didn't flinch. And you didn't beg. That's rare in this building. Lena crossed her arms. I'm not interested in being your charity case, Mr. Voss. You wouldn't be, he replied. You'd be my personal assistant, starting immediately.
She scoffed.
I thought you couldn't be near women. That made him pause. The room felt colder again. I can't, he said slowly. My condition, my allergy, is real. Skin contact with most women causes hives, difficulty breathing. It's complicated. And yet, he said, stepping closer, when you brushed my hand last night, nothing happened. Lena stepped back instinctively, chest tightening. I don't know what you're talking about. Yes, you do. Silence pulsed between them. Then Damien said, more softly, I haven't touched anyone in 5 years without pain. But when I touched you, my skin didn't burn. My body didn't reject it. He sounded almost in awe. I want to know why. Lena looked away, suddenly too aware of the heat in her cheeks, the storm rising in her chest. This was insane. She was just a single mom trying to survive. He was a billionaire used to control, silence, and shadows. I'm not an experiment, she whispered. Damien nodded. I know. I'm asking, not ordering. She swallowed hard. What's the pay? She asked, arms still crossed.
He smiled then.
A full, rare smile. Triple your current salary. A private apartment. Medical insurance for your children. And I'll have Ethan personally apologize, or be fired. A pause. You'll live where? In the penthouse. With me. Her breath caught. The door opened just then. His assistant appeared. Sir, the investors from Zurich are here. Damien didn't look away from her. Give me 5 minutes. The door shut. Lena stared at him. You're serious? I've never been more. And before she could protest again, he did something reckless. He slowly reached out and touched her wrist. Just a brush of his fingers. No reaction. No allergy. No pain. They both stared at the contact. It was nothing, and yet everything. You really don't affect me, he murmured. And for the first time in 5 years, Damien Voss felt something else under his skin.
Desire.
Lena stood at the edge of the penthouse elevator, arms crossed tightly across her chest. Her 2 children, Emma, 5, and Noah, barely 3, held onto her legs, wide-eyed at the gleaming black marble floors and towering windows that seemed to kiss the sky. You live here? Emma whispered. Damien Voss stood waiting, hands behind his back, gaze steady and unreadable as always. Dressed in a dark tailored shirt and slacks, he looked every bit the cold executive. But his eyes flicked toward Lena, not the kids, like he couldn't decide if she was a puzzle or a trigger. I own the top 3 floors, he said simply. You'll stay on the second. Your children will have their own rooms. A nanny is on call, but you can choose not to use her. Lena gave him a hard look. I didn't come here to live in a golden cage. Damien nodded once. I don't keep people. I hire them. But you don't hire women to live with you, she challenged. I don't hire anyone who can touch me, he countered. The silence stretched between them. Noah tugged her shirt. Mommy, does this mean you don't have to work nights anymore? Lena's eyes softened. She crouched, hugging him gently. It means I'll be close to you now. No more being apart. Damien turned away then, almost as if the intimacy of the moment stung more than any physical touch. The days that followed were strange. Lena was efficient, sharp, and untouchable, not because of his condition, but because of her walls. She managed his schedule with precision, kept his house in order, and shut down every attempt he made to get personal. She was always polite, always distant, and it drove him insane. He'd never been this curious about anyone before. Women had always been a threat to his body, a weakness he could never afford. But Lena? She made him feel. And worse, he liked it. Late one evening, Damien came home from a brutal board meeting. He loosened his tie and stepped into the lounge, only to freeze. Lena sat curled on the sofa, glasses on, reviewing documents. Emma and Noah were asleep beside her, their heads on her lap. She was stroking their hair absent-mindedly, murmuring softly. She didn't hear him, didn't sense the storm that rose in his chest watching her. She looked like something he'd never been allowed to have, a kind of warmth that refused to burn him. He stepped closer. You work after hours too? She jumped slightly, but didn't move from her place. You said I'd be paid well. I intend to earn it. His eyes drifted to the kids. They trust me already. They trust easily, she said coolly. Don't mistake that for safety. Damien lowered himself into the armchair across from her. And you? Do you trust me yet? I trust that you don't want me here for my resume. He flinched. She didn't soften. I don't sleep with my employers, Mr. Voss. I didn't ask you to. She set the documents aside. Not yet. The tension crackled in the space between them, sharp, dangerous, and laced with unsaid history neither of them dared to name. "Why do you look at me like that?" she asked suddenly. He blinked. "Like what?" "Like I'm the only thing keeping you from drowning." Damien leaned forward, elbows on knees. "Because maybe you are." She stared at him, just long enough to see the sincerity flicker behind his mask. Then her voice came, barely above a whisper. "You have no idea who I really am." Elsewhere, in a dim office across the city, Ethan Voss sat alone, glass of scotch in hand, eyes burning with fury. She made him touch her, he growled to the woman across from him. A tall, striking woman in red leaned forward, smirking. "She's not just anyone. She's hiding something, and he's too blind to see it." Ethan's jaw clenched. "He's making her powerful. That's dangerous." "You said you had a plan." "I do," she said smoothly, placing a photo on the desk, Lena and Damien, the kids between them. "She's not his weakness," she whispered. "She's his downfall." Back at the penthouse, Lena tucked the kids into bed and stepped onto the balcony. The city stretched before her, cold, glittering, and filled with promises she never trusted. Damien joined her minutes later, holding 2 mugs of tea. "No wine?" she asked dryly. "I don't drink with people I can't trust," he replied. She took the tea. Their fingers brushed. Still, no reaction. No rash. No allergy. Just heat. "I don't know what this is," she admitted softly, "but I didn't come here to fall for anyone. Especially not someone like you." Damien's voice was low, raw. "Good. Because I didn't bring you here to fall in love." A pause. "But now," he added, stepping closer, "I'm terrified that I already have." Lena turned her face away, heart slamming against her ribs. This wasn't part of the deal. This wasn't supposed to feel real. The world shattered before breakfast. Lena stood frozen at the kitchen island, her phone buzzing relentlessly in her trembling hands. The headline blazed across every screen like fire across dry grass. Damien Voss breaks touch curse for single mother, love, or manipulation? And beneath it, a high-resolution photo. Damien, hand gently brushing hers. Lena smiling faintly. Emma and Noah between them. A perfect illusion of family that wasn't supposed to be public. Not yet. Maybe not ever. "Mommy?" Emma blinked up at her, still in her pajamas, a teddy bear clutched to her chest. "Why are people sending your picture to Daddy?" Lena's heart plummeted. Her ex. She hadn't told him where she lived, where she worked. He was dangerous. Charming in public, venomous in private. And now this? He knew. 2 hours later, in the Voss Tower, Damien stormed through the hallway, flanked by security and silence. His face was carved from stone, eyes sharp as knives. He didn't need to see the news. His inbox had exploded. Shareholders were panicking. Reporters were circling like vultures. But none of it mattered. Only one thing mattered. Someone had leaked the photo, and only a handful of people had access to it. "Trace the IP address," he barked at IT. "I want names. I want every goddamn device in this building checked." But even as he gave orders, his mind was already spiraling to her. To Lena. Not because he doubted her, but because he feared what this exposure might pull out of her past. Back at the penthouse, Lena paced the living room, the walls suddenly tighter, the air thinner. Her eyes kept flicking to the door, half expecting her ex to kick it down. A knock came. She jumped. Damien entered, slower than usual, calmer than she expected. Too calm. "You saw it," she whispered. He nodded once. "We're handling it." Lena stared at him. "You're not angry?" "I'm used to scandal," he said simply. "But I'm not used to protecting someone through one." Her voice shook. "This wasn't supposed to happen. I know. I never wanted the world to see them not like this. Not like we're," she swallowed. "A family." He stepped closer. "And yet, that's how it looked." She turned away, biting her lip. He watched her in silence for a moment. Then, quietly, "Lena, who took that photo?" She stiffened. A beat. Then 2. And then she whispered, "I think it's him." Damien's eyes narrowed. "Who?" My ex, she breathed. He must have found us.
I
I should have known. I've been too safe, too still. I was stupid to think I could hide forever. Damien moved like lightning then, closing the distance, gripping her arms, not harshly but firmly. You're not stupid. You're surviving. But now, you're not doing it alone. She looked up at him. You don't understand. He's not just a jealous man. He's vindictive. He'll use the kids. He's done it before. He'll twist everything. He'll make it look like I ran off with some rich man and abandoned him. He's charming. He lies well. Damien's face darkened. He won't touch you. Or them. I swear it. Lena pulled away gently, crossing to the window.
Her voice was smaller now.
There's something you don't know. He waited. Her shoulders tensed as she said it. Noah isn't his. Silence. Then Damien exhaled slowly. I know.
She turned to him, stunned.
I suspected, he said quietly. The moment I saw his eyes. They're mine. She covered her mouth, heart slamming against her ribs. Damien stepped closer. You didn't lie. You protected him.
Protected me.
And now I need to protect all of you. Tears pooled in her eyes, but didn't fall. She couldn't afford that luxury. Why now? She asked. Why not 5 years ago? Because 5 years ago, he said, voice low and ragged. I was broken. I let fear and bitterness decide everything. I didn't even remember that night until I saw you again. But you, he stepped closer, gaze burning. You're the first person I've touched since, and it didn't hurt.
Don't you see?
You're the cure. The word cut through her.
Cure.
Like she was a solution, not a person. A balm, not a woman with pain and past and pieces. I'm not magic, Damien, she whispered. I'm just someone who's been hurt too many times to believe words anymore. Damien reached for her hand. She let him. Still no reaction. No rash. No pain. Just warmth. He held it. Then let me prove it in action. Later that night, a file sat on Ethan Voss's desk. He opened it with a smirk. Inside were photos. Lena, pregnant, alone, working in a dingy diner. A birth certificate forged in secrecy. A hospital report from 5 years ago, filed under an alias.
Proof.
She's been hiding his heir, Ethan said with venom. Let's see what the board thinks about that. Beside him, the woman in red lit a cigarette and smiled. Time to shatter the fairy tale. The elevator doors slid open into war. Lena stepped into the Voss Tower's executive floor, her heels clicking against the polished floors like the countdown of a bomb. A heavy silence clung to the walls. Security guards glanced her way. Assistants avoided eye contact. She felt it before she saw it. Judgment. Whispered betrayal. The air reeked of it. She pushed open the double glass doors of the boardroom, only to walk into a firing squad of suited men and women, all staring at her like she was the virus infecting their billion-dollar machine. And at the head of the table, face unreadable, sat Damien. Not Damien from the penthouse balcony. Not the man who touched her hand like it meant something. This Damien wore armor. Cold. Remote. Corporate. Lena Harper, said a voice. Ethan, smug and oily, rising from his seat like a serpent. You're just in time. A screen on the wall flashed to life. Image after image. Lena, years ago, visibly pregnant. A forged birth certificate.
Her diner job.
Noah's unlisted paternity. Care to explain? Ethan purred. Why you've been hiding the CEO's illegitimate child from this company and our investors? The room murmured. Lena froze. Her lungs stopped working. She turned to Damien, eyes searching for the man behind the mask. Please, her gaze begged. Tell them this isn't who I am. But Damien didn't speak. Didn't even blink. Ethan stepped closer, tossing papers onto the table. You hid a child from the Voss legacy. Manipulated Damien into believing you were just a struggling mother when in fact you've had leverage all along. Financial motive. Emotional entrapment. Shall I go on? Lena's throat tightened. That's not true. Really? Ethan snapped. because everything in that file says otherwise. I didn't know he was the father until he became useful, someone muttered. I was protecting my son, she cried, voice cracking. From a world that would devour him. From people like you.
Gasps.
Shifting in seats. Still, Damien said nothing. The silence from his end was louder than any accusation in the room. Tears stung her eyes, but she wouldn't let them fall. Not here. She turned to him one last time.
Damien.
Say something. He looked at her, finally, but his expression was a void. The board is right to question everything, he said quietly. This is complicated. Her chest hollowed out. Complicated? You told me I was the cure, she whispered. That I made you feel alive again. That you. Enough, Ethan snapped. Lena laughed bitterly. Of course. A boardroom full of men deciding the worth of a woman again. She grabbed the folder and ripped it in half. I may have been poor. I may have been desperate. But I never once used your name, your child, or your pity to survive. I did it alone. She turned to walk away, then stopped. And for the record, she added, facing them one last time, you're all terrified of the wrong woman. Do you think I'm her threat? You should be scared of what Damien becomes without me. Then she left. Not a single person followed. That night, Damien sat in the dark. The penthouse felt colder than usual. Quiet. Unbearably so. He stared at the spot where Noah used to scatter toy cars. Where Lena once fell asleep reviewing files. Where he let himself believe he was capable of something other than failure. His fingers twitched. He'd lost everything again. And this time, he'd pushed it away himself. Across the city, in a motel, Lena wiped her daughter's tears as Emma clutched her pillow. Why did we leave Mr. Damien's house? She asked. Didn't he like us anymore? Lena's voice cracked. He forgot how to care. Meanwhile, a press release hit every inbox in the city. Damien Voss, billionaire with a hidden heir? A company in crisis. The headline was brutal. The subtext worse. Investors pulled out.
Stock dipped.
But none of it compared to the hollow pit in Damien's chest. Because somewhere in that boardroom, when he stayed silent, he became the man she was running from all along. Lena jolted awake to the sound of shattering glass. The motel room was pitch dark except for the dull neon glow slipping through the torn blinds. Emma stirred beside her, and Lena clutched her daughter tight, heart pounding. Then came a voice from the shadows.
Low. Slurred.
Familiar. Did you really think you could hide him from me forever, Lena? Her blood turned ice. She slowly turned toward the doorway.
Zeke.
Noah's biological father. The man she had run from 5 years ago.
Drunk.
Hollow-eyed. Dangerous. He stepped into the room like a ghost resurrected, bottle still in hand, his rage simmering just below the surface. I saw the news, he said, eyes darting around the room. So that's why you disappeared? You traded me for a billionaire. Lena rose, shielding Emma behind her. Her voice was sharp, protective. You were never a father. You walked away before Noah was born. You lost every right. Zeke's grin curled. That's funny. Because now that the world knows I might have a son tied to a billion-dollar empire, suddenly I'm interested again. She didn't move. Get out. Zeke stepped closer. Give me the kid, Lena. I'll take him off your hands. Sell him to the highest bidder if I have to. She lunged for the drawer, where she kept the pepper spray, but he was faster. He shoved her against the wall, bottles smashing to the ground. Emma screamed. And then, the door slammed open with a crash. A figure stood there, backlit in the glow of flashing headlights. Damien. Face carved from fury. Suit still immaculate. But his eyes were wildfire. He crossed the room in 3 strides and threw Zeke across the floor with a single blow. Zeke groaned, dazed, blood trickling from his temple. Damien stood over him, fists clenched, bare skin exposed. No allergic reaction. No rash. No tremor. Only fire. Only her. Lena couldn't breathe. He was here. Her daughter's sobs filled the silence as Damien knelt beside Lena, his voice trembling. I'm sorry I didn't come sooner. I should have protected you. From him. From the board. From myself. Tears blurred her vision. How did you find us? He looked at her like he'd never stopped. I never stopped. He cradled Emma gently and helped Lena to her feet. I'm taking you home. Lena hesitated. You're bored. They're gone, he said sharply. I dissolved them. Vostek
Is mine again.
and I don't want it. Not without you. She blinked. What? He stepped closer, hand brushing hers. And he didn't flinch. No hives. No pain. Just warmth. I had every doctor test it. You were the anomaly. I couldn't believe it. But now I know why, he whispered, touching her cheek. It wasn't an allergy, Lena.
It was a trauma response.
My body, my soul rejected the world until you. You're not the exception. You're the cure. She broke. Tears flowed. Walls collapsed. She collapsed into his arms, and he held her like he'd been starving for the feeling. Later that night, in Damien's private suite, Lena tucked Emma into bed while Noah curled up beside Damien, his head on the CEO's chest. Damien stroked the boy's hair with a kind of reverence. He's everything I never thought I deserve. You do, Lena said softly. He looked up. You're not afraid anymore? I was, she whispered. But then you walked into that motel room like a storm. And I remembered. I'm not alone anymore. He kissed her hand gently, devoutly. I lost you once. I won't again. Outside, however, someone watched from the shadows. Zeke, bruised and seething, sat behind the wheel of a beat-up sedan. Phone in hand. He dialed a number. They took the bait. The CEO thinks he's safe now. A voice replied coldly. Good. Phase 2 begins tomorrow.